Okay. No, Sanguine, I'm not familiar with that then. I'm not. And yes, it is eggnog time, chat. So, let us check out the eggnog riot at West Point. This should be interesting. It is as told by Nick, so we know the story is going to be fucking great. I cannot wait, so let's fucking go.
It was the night before Christmas, and all the cadets at West Point got hammered, destroyed their barracks, and tried to kill several of their instructors.
What?
Today we're talking about one of the greatest military Christmas stories of all time, the West Point Eggnog Riot of 1826. But first, a word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by the greatest sporting goods store retail location on the planet, Shields. And if you don't live near one, they have an even better online store that's got satisfaction guaranteed and price matching, so make sure to go check them out.
Is it dead on him, Dwayne? Okay, I am...
PermaSafe. They are industrial strength disposable.
I can't wait to see. It's... Well, Big Dog, I think it's going to be much more basic than that. Much more basic.
Background info, West Point, the prestigious military academy, was created in 1802, and from 1802 to 1817, it was a complete shit show. It had a terrible reputation for being complete and utter chaos pretty much all of the time. Cadets were allowed to come and go as they pleased, and then when they did show up, they were too preoccupied drinking or dueling one another to actually learn how to become effective military officers. Cue this man, Colonel Slivanus Thayer. He's going to be hired as superintendent in 1817, and he's going to turn this ship around. He's going to come up with all kinds of radical rules, and because of this, he is regarded as the father of West Point. And when I say radical rules, it was basically just him pointing out obvious shit that we shouldn't be allowed to do anymore, like get drunk all day, kill each other in duels, and you actually have to show up to class. The hardest of these rules to enforce was the no drinking, because there was 3 places to buy alcohol in very close proximity to West Point. They had North Tavern, which was pretty much on West Point. Then you had this little general store type deal ran by a guy by the name of Benny Haven and his wife Lileda. And then right across the Hudson, you had Martin's Tavern. So Thayer, in his war on alcohol, buys the building that North Tavern is in, kicks them out, and turns it into a hospital. Then...
Okay, plot twist on that last part. Bought the tavern and turned it into a hospital. You know what? No, Pug, I'm gonna say that's fucking based. Like, I understand, I appreciate, like, the time, like, when this, when this was, the time period of when this was. But to take a tavern, like, he's wanting to instill discipline in like, yes, the trainees at West Point will fucking hate it. That's obvious because all they wanted, because they're a bunch of fucking drunks at this point. Yes, they're going to be upset, but you're going to take one of these taverns, buy the building, shut it down, and turn it into a hospital. That's fucking base. And yeah, it's a place for them to go to get patched up when they're busy when they're done beating the shit out of each other, or like suffering from alcohol poisoning. Yeah, I mean, pretty damn good trade-off in my opinion. Oh, good night, Galerion. Have a Merry Christmas.
He instructs Benny Haven and his wife to no longer sell alcohol to any of the cadets. The only tavern left after that is Martin's Tavern, but that's across the Hudson River, so he just leaves a guard on sentry duty at the dock where the boats are 24/7 to keep any cadets from going over to that tavern. That's it. The alcohol problem is solved. Or so they...
How quickly are they going to bribe the guard to let them go across the Hudson to the one remaining tavern? How quickly? Or how easily are they just going to sneak fucking around the guard and then bribe the tavern that they still have access to on site? Yeah, exactly, Alex. And Roberto, thank you for the follow.
they thought, you see, because Benny Haven over here is one of the boys. He was a veteran of the War of 1812, so he keeps selling alcohol under the table, hush hush, to all the cadets. This goes on for a couple years, and then Thayer finally catches Benny and his wife selling alcohol, kicks them off the West Point campus, and the rumor is they are the only two people to ever receive a lifetime ban from the military academy. Now at this point, Benny and his wife have essentially lost their job and their home. Pretty much anybody would be begging for forgiveness and promising not to do it again, but Benny and his wife Leleda are the #1 supporting characters in this story because they decide that they're going to buy a fishing shack right on the Hudson River, right outside of West Point, where all the cadets could get to them. Benny's new tavern, though, is only accessible from 2 different routes. You have to either get there by a boat on the Hudson River, or you have to crawl down a 60-foot steep cliffside that has stone stairs carved into it, meaning that it is treacherous for pretty much anybody, especially if you're drunk. And whether Benny intended it to be this way or not, this actually discourages pretty much anybody except for a bunch of cadets that are trying to avoid from being caught from drinking at his tavern. So his tavern is essentially just West Point cadets all the time. The only
And to my ears, it's also a place where the cadets will kind of learn and utilize land navigation and mountaineering skills. Unintentionally, I think he was getting the cadets to learn how to be better soldiers, because they'd have to do land navigation and, effectively speaking, mountaineering to be able to traverse the terrain to get to it. He didn't mean to do it, but goddammit, he's making them better soldiers by doing this.
The problem with that is that the West Point cadets don't actually make any money, so Benny decides he's going to give everybody a year-long tab, and he's willing to let them pay off their tab in barter, and the only thing he's not willing to accept is West Point military uniforms. He accepts everything else, including their shoes. Okay, if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, I'm trying to tell you that a grizzled veteran from the War of 1812 has opened up a bar right outside of West Point, and all the cadets can go there, get drunk, and pay for it with shit that they've stolen. I mean, strategically transferred to his location. So obviously all the cadets love this guy. He's probably the most influential bartender in American history. Any big military name from that era that went through West Point was friends with Benny Haven. Ulysses S. Grant, homeboys. Even Edgar Allan Poe is quoted as saying that Benny was the only congenial soul in that godforsaken place. So that's the deal. That's where everybody goes to drink and get their alcohol. It's from Benny Haven's Tavern, except for the 2 times a year where the cadets are actually allowed to drink on campus, and that is 4th of July and Christmas. Fast forward, 4th of July, 1826, all the cadets are drinking on campus openly because they're allowed to, because it's 4th of July, and they get absolutely hammered. At which point they decided that they were going to perform a snake dance. I have no idea what that is, but apparently at the end of it, they ran over, picked up the Commodore of West Point, Major William Worth, carried him off to the barracks because they liked the guy so much, they wanted to kidnap him so they could go drink with him. Because of this, Superintendent Thayer decides that they went too far and that there's just going to be no more drinking ever again at West Point.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
It's not going to end well at all.
Fast forward later that year, December 22nd, 1826. It's almost Christmas, and for the first time since West Point's inception, the cadets are not going to be allowed to throw a Christmas party on Christmas Eve and have everybody get hammered on eggnog. So obviously they're going to do it anyways and just try not to get caught, but I mean, worst case scenario, they do get caught. What's really going to happen?
You'll be shot for this? Nah, I don't think so. More like chewed out. I've been chewed out before.
Some of the cadets sneak off and they go across the Hudson River to Martin's Tavern where they can get a better deal on buying a bunch of alcohol, and their goal is to get at least half a gallon of whiskey for the eggnog. That being said, anything worth doing is worth overdoing, so naturally they end up with 2 gallons of whiskey, and they get caught by the guard on the way back, a private by the name of James Dugan, and they end up bribing him with 35 cents to look the other way. Next day,
told ya. And the only reason why it took this long is because they were going to Homeboy instead, because it was closer. You didn't have to cross the Hudson. Fucking told you how long was it going to take to bribe this guard from the Hudson. Shit.
Day, December 23rd, all the cadets are still stealing food and anything else they could want for this party. While that's going on, the staff have their Christmas party at Thayer's house. It's at this Christmas party that Thayer decides that he's going to be a pretty cool guy. He knows that the cadets...
Pug? Okay. for people saying 35 cents is not much, yeah, this is back in the mid or early 1800s. 35 cents would probably be the equivalent of like $200 or so these days. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you realized the year that this took place. It was like 1826. So yeah, I don't know about the conversion rate compared to like $1826, but I would yeah, no sweat, Parker. I got it. Don't worry about it. I'm thinking if we did conversion rate, somebody in chat can do it if they want. I'm going to guess conversion rate 35 cents is probably the equivalent of 150, 200 bucks in today's money at a just spitballing, I guess.
Are going to drink tomorrow, but he's just going to turn a blind eye. He's not going to increase the amount of guards or the amount of staff on duty. He's just going to look the other way.
That to it, calculator said 20 bucks. 35 cents was the equivalent of 20 bucks today. Really? 11. Wow. Okay, I was way off. What? Okay, I was way off. So they slipped them 20 essentially. Huh. That's right. John, I thought for sure I thought for sure that it would have been the modern day equivalent would have been more than 20 bucks. Okay. It's like slipping the bouncer 20 bucks.
He's going to have the same old 2 officers on staff, making sure everything's okay. He knows they're going to drink. They can drink. Let them think they got away with it. It'll be fine. So that gets
hang on, let me back this up a little bit.
The staff have their Christmas party at Thayer's house. It's at this Christmas party that Thayer decides that he's going to be a pretty cool guy. He knows that the cadets are going to drink tomorrow, but he's just going to turn a blind eye. He's not going to increase the amount of guards or the amount of staff on duty. He's just going to look the other way. He's going to have the same old 2 officers on staff, making sure everything's okay. He knows they're going to drink. They can drink. Let them think they got away with it. It'll be fine. So that gets decided, and the next order of business is to figure out.
You know what? Base commanding officer. That's a good commanding officer. It's like, okay, I've said you can't drink, but I still know you're going to drink. I'll let you think you got away with it. And I'm just going to leave it be. I did my due diligence, and there's harmony all around. So how is this going to go sideways in the most hilarious way possible?
What they're going to do with the class fuck up Jefferson Davis. Yeah, like as in the president of the Confederacy in the future at this point. Apparently he has quite the drinking problem, and he's not very slick about it because he has the distinct honor of being the first student to ever be arrested for going to Benny's Tavern, and he just got back from being hospitalized for 4 months because the second time he got caught at Benny's Tavern, he tried to make a getaway and ended up falling down the 60-foot cliff on the stone stairs to get there, and he's been hospitalized ever since, and he just
So he did not do well with land navigation and mountaineering. She needs more training.
just got back to class. Fast forward again, December 24th, Christmas Eve, day of the party. During the day, all the cadets are going out. They're buying all the fresh eggs, all the fresh milk from the local farmers. Some of them go over to Benny's Tavern. They end up buying an extra gallon of moonshine in case the 2 gallons of whiskey aren't enough. And Benny's wife, Lolita, also makes them a bunch of mutton, which they're going to take back to the barracks and heat in the middle of the night as a drinking snack while they're getting drunk on eggnog. Eggnog and mutton, which is disgusting to think about. All right, fast forward a couple hours. Everybody's been released for the day. They're all hanging out at the barracks. It's nighttime. It's time to get this party started. They break out the wooden buckets. They start mixing the eggs and the milk and the booze to make their eggnog. The 2 officers that are in charge of everybody, Captain Ethan Hitchcock and Lieutenant William Thornton, are going to bed at like 11, midnight. That's when the party's really going to start. And that's pretty much exactly what happens. Hitchcock and Thornton go to bed, and then everybody else just kind of starts drinking quietly in their barracks rooms amongst themselves, hanging out in the hall, having a good time. And now naturally, as the night goes on, things get a little bit louder and a little bit louder as everybody gets
Uh-oh.
drunker and drunker, and finally, at 4 a.m., Captain Hitchcock is awoken by a bunch of noise. So Captain Hitchcock gets up out of bed. He's gonna go investigate, but he knows exactly what he's gonna find. This dude's been in the army his whole life. He knows it's just a bunch of cadets drinking on Christmas Eve. It's not really that big of a deal. All he's gonna do is he's gonna go find the first group he can, tell them to be quiet. They're gonna tell everybody else, and everything's gonna be completely fine. So that's exactly what he does. He goes upstairs.
So how is this going to go sideways in the most hilarious way possible? The shot. We would not be hearing this story from Nick if this did not go sideways in the most hilarious way possible. Is there going to be a sudden stampede? Are they going to be so drunk that they're going to mishear? See? And are they going to immediately go into attack mode? My curiosity is piqued.
To the first of many barracks rooms. It has a bunch of cadets drinking inside of it, pokes his head in the door and is like, hey, shut the fuck up and go to bed. And they're like, cool, our bad. And he leaves. He goes back to his room. And that should have been the end of the entire thing. So Captain Hitchcock is laying in bed. Sure enough, somebody starts banging on his door. So he pops up, goes to check the door. There's nobody there. Looks down the hallway. Nobody there. That was weird. Whatever. I'm gonna go back to bed. Lays back down. 5 minutes later, somebody bangs on his door again. Goes over, checks the door. Nobody's there. Looks down the hallway.
No. Oh no. They're so drunk. They said, let's fuck with them. Oh, this is such a bad idea. He was gonna let them go with it. And they chose stupidity. Yeah, exactly where I got. I was almost gonna say ding dong ditch, but there's no actual doorbell. So this is the 1820s version. No, this is the 1820s version of that stupid fucking TikTok prank where people were like kicking at the doors. Only this is when it was done more civilly.
Nobody's there again. Shuts the door, stomps on the ground like he's going to lay back down in bed, and waits there for like 30 seconds. Somebody bangs on the door again. He opens the door, and all he catches is the ass end of a bunch of cadets yelling, "Tally-ho, Hitch." Okay, now it's on. He was trying to be cool. You guys are being drunk assholes. Now there's going to be consequences. So he goes upstairs. He starts kicking in doors, chewing people out, writing down people's names. He gets to one room. 2 of the cadets try to hide underneath a blanket, and another guy tries to take his hat and cover up his face so he can't write his name down. The dude's under the blanket.
I'm gonna put this hat in front of my face. You can't see me. You can't see me. I'm invincible by the magic of the hat. Or better yet, I'm hiding under the blanket. You can't see me. Okay. This reminds the first thing I thought when he said hiding under the blanket. Okay, no, Zeb. Okay, how many of you have seen Samurai Cop? How many of you have seen that movie, Samurai Cop? There is a point to this. How many of you have seen it? No? Okay, Revan, you've seen it. Okay. That actually was it Samurai Cop or no? I'm sorry. No. Wrong movie, not Samurai Cop. No. Sorry, wrong movie. The movie in question I'm thinking of is Very Bad Men. Sorry, it's not Samurai Cop. It's called Very Bad Men. It is a movie that took something like 30 years to make. Okay. Alright. You may not have seen it. There are reviews of it out there. People have reviewed it. I know some of you are Jason Brandt fans. So bet it's good. He has reviewed it. It's a great review. There is a scene in it where the police bust into this big drug dealer's house. Like, bear in mind, this is like an incredibly shittily shot movie. The movie is shot incredibly bad. The cops bust into this drug dealer's house. The drug dealer has fled, but his his main squeeze is still there. They bust into the bedroom where she is. She's kneeling on the bed, literally kneeling up, folding a sheet in front of her. And the implication is like, you can't see me, I'm hiding behind the sheet. And the two cops are standing there with their guns pointed at her, and she's sitting there holding up a sheet in front of her, pretending acting like they can't see her because she's behind the sheet. That's exactly what I was thinking of when Nick was describing this, where they're trying to hide under the bed, hide under the blankets. If you don't know, it's a very obscure movie. There are YouTube reviews of it. It's called Very Bad Men. You'll be able to find it. It actually shows that scene in question. Watch it. It's funny as hell.
He's like, take the blanket off. Quit fucking around. Whatever. They take the blanket off. He sees who they are. Okay, cool. Dude with the hat won't take the hat off of his face. He tries to walk past him. He ends up pushing him back into the room. And he's like, no, take the hat off your face so I can see who you are. And the dude doesn't do it. So he's like, take the hat off or I'm going to take the hat off for you. And then he rips the hat out of the dude's hands, sees who it is, writes down his name, no big deal, goes over to the next room. Now, the logical thing to do here would be to go to bed and deal with your punishment in the morning. However, since they're drunk assholes at this point in time, they decide that since Hitchcock actually touched one of them, that it was an attack on their honor and they needed to retaliate. So they went and got bayonets and knives and pistols, and they were going to hunt Hitchcock down and kill him. Cut back to...
I'm sorry, what?
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Seriously? Holy fuck! Yeah, Tanashi, I agree. Now we can see how the riot's gonna start. Fucking hell!
To Hitchcock, he's making his way through the barracks. There's drunk cadets laying down in the hallway. It's a complete shit show. He makes his way into one of the bigger rooms. It has like 20 cadets inside of it, at which point he explains to them that because there's more than 12 of them, this technically constitutes as a riot, and starts reading them the riot act before informing them that they're all under arrest. Then after placing all of them under arrest, he tells the cadet in charge of this like area or this room that he needs to open up all the foot lockers so he can find all the booze and get rid of it. And that cadet is like, no thanks, and he goes and lays down on the floor and falls asleep. At this point, fuck...
Out of all the reactions that I was expecting there, that was not one of them. I was not anticipating the reaction where he's just like, yeah, fuck it, I'm going to bed. Today, I need all the alcohol right now. Nah, no thanks, I'm tired, I'm gonna go to bed. It just goes to sleep. I mean, probably the best fucking reaction you could have, honestly.
Jefferson Davis, the future president of the Confederacy, runs in, slams the door behind him, holding the door while looking at it, and is like, guys, hide the grog, Hitchcock's coming. And then he turns around and Hitchcock's right there, and he's like, oh. Damn. At this point, Captain Hitchcock looks at Jefferson Davis and is like, take your dumb ass to bed. And he's like, okay. And then he goes to bed, falls asleep. That's the rest of the story for him. Yeah. Captain Hitchcock literally just told the future president of the Confederacy that it's past his bedtime, and he listened. This man is the biggest gangster in the entire story. Captain Hitchcock then turns around to the 20 cadets that he was just chewing out, looks at them. They look at him. He looks at them, he looks at the guy that fell asleep on the floor, not respecting his authority, and he's like, I have no idea what to fucking do right now, so he just turns around and he leaves. He walks away. And while all this is going on, outside the barracks, there's an active duty private that's on sentry duty over the night, and he's got a drum with him to alert everybody in case like there's a fire, or somebody attacks, or he just needs everybody to wake up. He has this emergency drum, and a bunch of drunk cadets come up to this poor private and are like, hey, give me your fucking drum set. So they steal this private's drum set and just start playing it. This ends up waking up the other officer, Lieutenant Thornton, who goes to investigate what's going on. Apparently at this point, the eggnog riot, mutiny, rebellion, whatever you want to call it's really kicked off, and the idea is spread that we're going to kill some of the West Point staff because Thornton is immediately stopped by a student that has a fucking sword. To which Lieutenant Thornton is like, what the fuck are you doing? Put the goddamn sword down. And the drunk cadet like grumbles something, throws the sword on the ground, and then falls asleep on the floor. Cut back to...
Honestly, this is the meta. You confront the cadets. What the fuck are you doing? The cadets just gonna go, I fucking know. Fine. And go to sleep. This is the meta. confront the cadets, make them actually think, their brains will short circuit. Just tell them, just walk up to them and go, what are you doing? The cadet will respond with, gee, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And they'll go to sleep.
Captain Hitchcock, who has an angry mob of students hunting him and he has no idea, he's come up on another room of cadets that have barricaded themselves into their room, and he's trying to kick the door down. And he finally kicks the door in, and one of the cadets pulls a pistol and fires, and at the last second, one of the other cadets hits the pistol up, and the bullet hits the door frame right next to Hitchcock. And Hitchcock is like, holy shit. Okay, things are getting out of hand. It's time to go get help. Cut back to Lieutenant Thornton, who just got done dealing with the cadet with the sword, and then he hears a gunshot, and he's like, what the fuck is happening right now? So he goes to investigate that, and on his way there, one of the cadets hits him in the head with a piece of firewood and knocks him unconscious. So Hitchcock makes his way out of the barracks. He's going to find help. He runs into Private James Overton.
Now, one thing I'm going to say. One thing I'm going to say, where he's talking about one cadet hits him in the head with a piece of firewood and knocks him unconscious. He'd only be unconscious for like 20 seconds, maybe. Bearing in mind, when someone gets quote-unquote knocked unconscious, they only are knocked unconscious for a few seconds. This is not like the movies where someone is knocked unconscious and it lasts for like 30 minutes or even a couple of hours. That's not how it works. If you get knocked out and you are unconscious for more than like a minute, your ass needs to get to the hospital because you have suffered traumatic brain injury if you've been unconscious for more than 1 minute. The typical person that gets knocked out, you know, they're down for usually like 10 seconds. Maybe, you know, the most long knockouts are like one unconscious. There is no such thing as you get knocked out and you're waking up a couple hours later. That is a fictional tool used by writers to basically span time. If you have been knocked out for a couple of hours before you wake up, you're waking up drooling from the corner of your mouth, making absolutely no sense because you have brain damage at that point. So yeah, that's just so if there's truth in the story, him getting knocked out by the firewood lasted a couple seconds and then he woke back up going, what the actual fuck just happened?
Because he was looking for him, and James Overton is like, hey, your cadets stole my drum set. What the fuck? To which Hitchcock is like, yeah, well, they just tried to kill me, so obviously things are out of control. Why don't you go get the comm? Now, when he said, go get the comm, he meant Commodore William Worth. However, the cadets that were off to the side overheard him, and they thought he said the bomb, and they took that as he was referring to the bombardiers, which if you don't know, West Point wasn't just a college at this point, it was also an active military base, and on that base was a bunch of bombardiers or artillerymen. And the cadets and the artillerymen absolutely fucking hated each other and had this huge rivalry. And in the cadets' drunken stupor, they took that to mean that the artillerymen were going to show up and start, like, shelling the barracks, or at least, like, try to attack them somehow. So they spread the...
Oh, you have to love the drunk thought. Absolutely love the alcohol-soaked brain calculations of this. Hang on, what did he say? Hang on.
William Worth, however, get the comm. Now, when he said, go get the comm, he meant Commodore William Worth. However, the...
He could have misspoken, gray matter. Or maybe back then, during that period in West Point history, he was referred to as the Commodore and was not yet referred to as the Commandant. It's possible that maybe they had not adjusted the title at that, in the 1820s. Maybe. I don't know. I'm guessing.
it was also an active military base, absolutely fucking hated each other and had this huge rivalry, and in the cadets' drunken stupor, they took that to mean that the artillerymen were going to show up and start, like, shelling the barracks, or at least, like, try to attack them somehow. So they spread the word, and all the drunk cadets start fortifying their barracks for an attack. They're putting all the furniture in front of doors, they're breaking out all the windows, they're loading whatever guns they have, they're getting ready for an actual fight. It is at this point that Captain Hitchcock hears the bugle playing, meaning that it's time for everybody to wake up, or so he thought, because he turns around and realizes that a bunch of drunk cadets had stolen the bugle and were playing it too. He then just kind of stands there for the next couple hours watching all the cadets fortify the building for an attack that's never coming as they break out windows, ruin a bunch of furniture, and then eventually they all get quiet and pass out drunk, waiting for this attack.
Shut up, clock in, and load up.
Okay. That's the next version I haven't heard before. Hi, Trikite.
Come that never actually comes. So then the real bugle does actually kick off and all the other people start showing up. There's a couple of barracks that weren't actually involved. All those cadets start showing up. The rest of the staff, Superintendent Thayer, and everybody's like, what the fuck happened? There's broken glass everywhere. There's mutton vomit all over the place. There's drunk privates out in the field with a drum set. Like, what is happening? So then Captain Hitchcock goes over, talks to Thayer, explains everything that happened, and he's like, what do you want me to do? And Thayer, the dude that knows everything, like total hard ass, he's like totally in charge. Even he's like, I have no idea. So they just kind of go about their day like nothing happened. And then slowly over time, they kind of figure out, okay, well, we have to do something. So they launch a little internal investigation. They figure out that there's like 90 cadets involved in this riot. And 90 is like roughly a third of all of West Point. So obviously they're not going to be able to kick out everybody. So they decide they're just going to take like the top 20 worst offenders and they're going to expel them. And like all but 2 of them were invited back the next year. So basically it was just a for show punishment. Some of the more notable names of people that were expelled include Hugh Mercer, who ended up being a general for the Confederacy in the Civil War. Then you had Samuel Roberts, who ended up being the Secretary of State for the Republic of Texas. You've got Benjamin Humphreys, who was expelled, who ended up being also a Confederate general and the governor of Mississippi. Jefferson Davis famously didn't get a punishment at all. And then you had John Campbell, who they tried to expel, but he argued his way out of it, and he went on to sit as a Supreme Court justice later in life. Which I mean, you have to admit, between a bunch of future Confederate leaders getting in trouble for a grog mutiny and a future Supreme Court justice arguing his way out of his punishment, it's some of the best examples of foreshadowing I've ever seen in my entire life. In conclusion, the moral of the story is that if you're gonna do the wrong thing, do it with a lot of your buddies, because they can't get all of you in trouble at the same time, because teamwork makes the dream work, even if the dream is to be an asshole on Christmas Eve. Thank you for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Happy Christmas, Merry, whatever the fuck you celebrate. Quack bang, out. I'm gonna go drink some eggnog.
Was this inspired a movie where military cadets captured their school starring
and
Tom
Leleda
Cruise?
even makes them a bunch. I keep wanting to say fucking hummus. It's not hummus. It's, what the fuck is it called? Damn it! Mutton. Fucking mutton. Why am I getting mutton and hummus in my fucking head?
I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, Falcon. And C4 Gaming, thank you for the follow. Oh god, that was fucking great. That was fucking great. Yes, the cocaine hippo broke his back. We actually looked at that one. We actually did do the react to the cocaine hippos.